James found himself changed in ways he could not explain. He began planning events differently, allowing space for stillness and truth. He learned that impact did not always arrive loudly. The performance traveled further than the stage ever could. Shared by strangers. Saved by hearts. A Filipino song, once known only to a few, now lived across borders and cultures. It reminded people that pain and love sound the same everywhere. And long after the applause faded, the song continued doing what it was meant to do. It connected. It healed. It proved that sometimes, the most powerful thing in the world is a voice brave enough to carry love beyond language. The night did not end when the lights dimmed. It followed people home. In quiet cars. In silent rooms. In thoughts that refused to rest. The song stayed with them, replaying in the spaces between sleep and memory. Not as sound, but as feeling. Messages began to appear across screens before sunrise. People searching for the name of the song. The meaning of the words. The story behind the voice that had reached them so deeply. They wrote about parents they had not called in years. About sacrifices they had taken for granted. About emotions they did not know were still waiting inside them. Mateo read the messages slowly. He did not feel pride. He felt responsibility. He understood that the song no longer belonged to him alone. It had become a mirror for others. Across the ocean, Elena watched the recording in a small, quiet room. She recognized every emotion in her son's voice. The waiting. The strength. The love carried without complaint. Her tears were soft, steady, and full of peace. To him, the silence felt uncertain. He wondered if he had failed to connect. But the stillness was proof that he had reached deeper than applause ever could. Slowly, someone rose from their seat. Then another. Not in excitement. In respect. The sound of clapping arrived carefully, like footsteps on fragile ground. It grew not louder, but fuller. The room stood together, united by something they could not name. The silence had spoken first. And it had said everything that words never could. The final note did not end the song. It lingered. It hovered in the air long after Mateo's voice had faded, as if the room itself needed time to understand what it had just received. No one moved. Hands stayed still. Eyes remained fixed on the stage. Breathing felt louder than it should have. Applause did not arrive, not because the audience was unsure, but because something sacred had settled between them. Noise felt intrusive. This was a different kind of silence. It was heavy with reflection. It was filled with emotion that had nowhere to go yet. Tears appeared quietly. Not the dramatic kind. The honest kind. People blinked slowly, surprised by the warmth on their cheeks. Some pressed their lips together, trying to steady feelings they had not planned to meet that evening. James stood frozen near the aisle. His mind searched for the right response, the professional response. None existed. Years of emotional distance dissolved in seconds. Memories surfaced without permission. Faces. Moments. People he had not thanked enough. Mateo lowered his head slightly, unaware of the storm he had stirred. Time lost its edges. Mateo poured himself into the melody without asking for understanding. He trusted emotion to translate what words could not. The song did not demand attention. It earned it. With every note, something unseen began to break open. Old grief. Forgotten gratitude. Unspoken love. The hall was no longer a room full of strangers. It had become a shared memory in the making. And as the song continued, America listened not with ears, but with hearts slowly remembering how to feel. The moment Mateo's fingers steadied and his breathing slowed, the room changed. It was not sudden. It was gentle. The first note did not rise with power. It floated. Soft and unsure, like a memory testing whether it was still welcome. That sound moved through the hall and settled into places no one had prepared to open. People shifted in their seats without knowing why. Eyes lifted. Attention sharpened. The melody carried a feeling older than language. It spoke of waiting without impatience. Of love that survives distance. Of strength that never announces itself. Mateo sang with his eyes lowered, not from fear, but from focus. Each note came from a place shaped by absence and hope. Nothing was forced. Nothing was rushed. The unfamiliar words did not create distance. They removed it. James felt his hands unclench. He had spent years managing moments instead of feeling them. This was not something he could schedule or control. The song moved slowly, like waves returning again and again to the shore. Every rise carried emotion. Every pause carried truth. Faces in the audience softened. Some stopped breathing for brief seconds, as if afraid to interrupt what was happening. Others felt warmth gather behind their eyes, unexpected and unexplained. No one reached for their phone. Stronger. More aware of the weight his mother carried for him. He never chased fame. He chased meaning. When the opportunity to sing in America appeared, it did not feel like a reward. It felt like responsibility. The song he chose was not popular. It was personal. A Filipino song shaped by generations of waiting, endurance, and faith. A song that carried the quiet strength of mothers who leave so their children can stay. As Mateo prepared for the performance, he thought of Elena waking before sunrise in a foreign place. He imagined her tired hands. Her unwavering hope. This song was not meant to impress strangers. It was meant to honor sacrifice. And unknowingly, it was about to remind an entire audience that love often arrives wrapped in silence. Mateo's story was written long before he ever stepped onto an American stage. It began in a small Filipino town where days moved slowly and dreams learned patience early. Homes stood close together. Windows stayed open. Life was shared in quiet ways. His childhood carried warmth, but it also carried distance. Elena, his mother, was present in love but absent in body. She left when Mateo was still small, not because she wanted to escape, but because staying would have meant surrendering hope. She crossed oceans with a single suitcase and an unbreakable promise to return stronger. Mateo learned early how to be gentle with his longing. He learned how to wait. Birthdays passed through phone screens. Holidays arrived with delayed greetings. Hugs became memories instead of moments. Yet Elena never left him empty. Every message she sent carried encouragement. Every sacrifice carried purpose. Music entered Mateo's life quietly. He sang while helping neighbors. While walking narrow streets. While staring at the sea that separated him from his mother. Songs became his way of speaking to the silence. Of turning absence into something beautiful. Years went by. Mateo grew taller. Conversations softened. Movement slowed. Something subtle changed in the air. It was the quiet before rain. Before a truth reveals itself. Mateo stepped forward as the curtain opened. He did not look like someone about to change a room. He looked like someone carrying a story too big to hold alone. As he approached the microphone, a strange stillness spread. Not forced. Not planned. Natural. No one knew it yet, but this was the last moment before everything shifted. Before a song from a distant island would reach into American hearts. Before silence would become louder than applause. Before tears would arrive without warning. The evening had just begun. No one walked into that hall expecting their hearts to feel heavy. It was an ordinary evening in America, the kind where people came straight from work, still carrying the weight of their day. Coats were folded over arms. Phones were checked one last time. Minds were already planning what would come next. The event was listed as cultural. Music from another place. A short performance before everyone returned to their lives. Nothing more. The hall filled slowly, seat by seat, with people who believed they had seen it all. Concerts. Shows. Performances that impressed but never stayed. The lights above the stage glowed softly, warming the empty space where a microphone waited. It stood alone, simple, almost unnoticed. Behind the curtain, Mateo stood still. He was not nervous in the way people expected. There was no shaking, no pacing. Instead, there was memory. He felt the weight of every mile that separated him from home. Every year spent growing up faster than he should have. Every sacrifice made quietly by a mother who never asked to be thanked. This stage was larger than any he had known. The faces beyond the curtain were unfamiliar. Different accents. Different lives. Yet the feeling inside him was the same one he had always carried, hope mixed with ache. In the audience, James Carter scanned the room with practiced eyes. Everything was on schedule. Everything was under control. This was just another event. He had no idea that control would soon mean nothing. The noise of the room slowly faded as the lights dimmed.